They're throwing the book at her. Let's play hardball. Good evening, I'm Chris Matthews in Washington. Leading off tonight, Game Change. It's the hottest political book in memory, and tonight we've got the authors. For the first half hour of a special edition of Hardball tonight, we'll start with the unflattering portrait of Hillary Clinton as an unfocused candidate who eagerly sought to slime Barack Obama. Why aren't her supporters fighting back now? Could be because they're the source of all the negative stories in the book. We start, however, with the new book, Game Change. The co-authors of the book are with us tonight. Time Magazine's Mark Halpern and New York Magazine's John Heilman. Congratulations, gentlemen, on the most exciting book to come out in a long time. I'm holding it up just for one more look at it. There it is. The Game Change. Hell of a book. Let's go to this. This is the splash in today's Politico. Amazing cover. The Clintons stand alone. John Heilman, you first. The portrait you paint of Hillary Clinton is... well, you paint it right now. Who is Hillary Clinton as she comes across in the 2008 campaign as you discovered her behind the scenes?
Well, she comes across, Chris, I think, in the first instance, as a much more ambivalent candidate getting into the race than most people expect. A lot of people assumed Hillary Clinton was going to be running from the very beginning. You know, we report in Game Change that all the way up until late 2006, her senior-most advisors thought there was a chance that she would forego the run entirely. And we portray her, and that ambivalence carried through. I think we portray her as a tough, ruthless candidate, as ruthless as anybody has ever thought. But I also think, balancing that picture, there's an awful lot of humanity in this book that we show about Hillary Clinton that people haven't discussed as much as they might once they get a chance to read the book.
You know, on that topic, ruthless, Mark, give me a description, if you can, verbally now, of her behavior as apparently witnessed by one of her top people in your book after losing the Iowa caucuses. How would you describe that vividly?
Two big nights for Hillary Clinton in this campaign, scenes that we recreate in the book that are pretty dramatic in terms of her temperament, what you're asking about. She loses the Iowa caucuses as recently as that day. She had been led to believe, on the night before, rather, the Iowa caucuses, she'd been led to believe that she'd finish first or a close second. That morning, she started to get indications there might be trouble. She finishes a distant third, and in the suite, in the hotel Fort Des Moines in downtown Des Moines, she's in this room with her top aides, her husband. Both Clintons are seething. They've got a range of grievances, a range of angers, including both of them convinced that Barack Obama has cheated to win the caucuses. And she's so angry that night that one of her top lieutenants, someone who'd worked with her for a long time, who was in the room that night, we say in Game Change, looked at her behavior, this lack of composure, this lack of leadership after a big loss, and said, boy, I wonder if this woman should actually be president.
James Carville has a suggestion as to who that person is. Is it that person, John Heilman?
Well, we're being pretty scrupulous here, Chris, about protecting our sources, and so I'm not going to have anything to say about that. But well, we're being pretty scrupulous here, Chris, about protecting our sources, and so I'm not going to have anything to say about that. But
James Carville has a suggestion as to who that person is. Is it that person, John Heilman?
I'm not going to have anything to say about that, but I can certainly say that the person who thought it was someone who was a deep believer in Hillary Clinton and who in that moment was stunned to see her lack of composure and her lack of resilience in that moment of defeat.
So it was not Patty Solis Doyle, or you're not talking?
I'm not talking. I'm not talking.
Okay, let me ask you about this one. Let's watch now. This is Drexel University, October 30th, 2007. To many people, this was a game-changing event in the campaign. It's at Drexel U in Philadelphia.
Why does it make a lot of sense to give an illegal immigrant a driver's license?
Well, what Governor Spitzer is trying to do is fill the vacuum left by the failure of this administration to bring about comprehensive immigration reform. I just want to add, I did not say that it should be done, but I certainly recognize why Governor Spitzer is trying to do it, and we have failed. We have failed.
No. You said yes.
No.
You thought it made sense to do it.
No, I didn't, Chris.
Senator Clinton, I just want to make sure what I heard. Do you, the New York Senator, Hillary Clinton, support the New York governor's plan to give illegal immigrants a driver's license?
Tim, this is where everybody plays gotcha. It makes a lot of sense.
Unless I missed something, Senator Clinton said two different things in the course of about 2 minutes, just a few minutes ago.
Well, I was confused on Senator Clinton's answer. I can't tell whether she was for it or against it.
Well, gentlemen, Tim Russert, the late Tim Russert, our beloved colleague here, one of the great journalists of our era, was doing something, consciously or not, that's called middling someone, John Heilman. It's when you force them to choose on television or in your presence between two loyalties. She had to choose right there between Governor Spitzer, the guy she needed to back her in New York, and her knowledge that the position for people getting driver's licenses who are not in this country legally was going to kill anybody in a general election, and she couldn't decide, and that exposed her.
I understand.
It's just the way people think.
Well, but you know,
that you're not answering the question.
Well, but I think that if you go back and look at the complexity of this issue, I don't think a lot of these hard questions lend themselves to raising your hand. And I know that that's easier in a 30-second, context to try to do. I think the fact that governors are being forced into this position is really unfortunate. They should not be making immigration policy. The federal government should be making immigration policy. And that's what I'm going to try to do as president again. And I do not believe that in the context of federal immigration reform, that would be an issue that governors would have to contend with.
So I know it's not a yes or no question to you, but you've had some time here, and the problem is that people can't quite get a hold of is, for a governor at this time, do you think it's a good idea for them to offer driver's license to illegal immigrants?
Depends upon what state they're in. It depends upon what they think the risks are. A governor of New York that has a lot of immigrants, many of whom we know are not there legally, has to worry about security. A governor of another state where that's not a problem doesn't. This issue has been so politicized, and I understand that because, you can score points. You can score all kinds of political, demagogic points. But the fact is that if we don't have comprehensive immigration reform, which for me includes toughening the borders, much harder sanctions on employers, doing more to help local communities that are stuck with the bill on all kinds of services, and bringing immigrants out of the shadows, and if they ever committed a crime where they came from or here, immediately deport them. But for the others, have a tough path to earned legalization. Pay back taxes, pay fines, learn English, wait in line. And once you got somebody on the record, registered, deported the criminals, and said they had to keep on the right side of the law, keep making a living, and do all of these other things I've outlined, that would be the appropriate time to give them some kind of license. But I understand, and I'm not going to be second-guessing governors who have to do the hard work of figuring out what's best for their states.
And she couldn't decide, and that exposed her as someone who tried to get it both ways. I think that really opened up some about Hillary. Tell us what you discovered in that moment, why it was important in your book and your findings.
It did, and I'll tell you two things about it, Chris. One is that, Hillary's staffers and her top aides saw that moment as a car crash. We recreate that moment when she's on stage at that debate, and you have in the back room, you have Mandy Grunwald, her ad maker, literally yelling at the television set, saying, "Stop, please, stop," as she continues to stumble.
What's Mandy saying? Back the governor or back the general election, the easiest position to take against illegal driver's licenses?
I think what she's saying is just stop talking, please, and stop taking multiple positions, because you're just digging yourself a deeper hole.
But I understand, and I'm not going to be second-guessing governors who have to do the hard work of figuring out what's best for their states.
But the reason that debate is so important, Chris, is that at that moment, before that debate, Hillary Clinton was ahead by 35 points in the national polls. She was cruising towards what everyone thought was the nomination. And one of the great revelations in Game Change, I think, is just how confident she was. We write in the book that it was literally a week or so before that she first convened two of her top advisors, Roger Altman and John Podesta, to start planning not just for her eventual nomination, but not her eventual victory into the White House, but for her transition into the Oval Office. A single vote had not been cast in the Democratic nomination fight, and she was so confident she would be president of the United States that she started a detailed, rigorous transition effort. Well, we're being pretty scrupulous here, Chris, about protecting our sources, and so I'm not going to have anything to say about that. But
You're not talking.
I'm not talking.
You know, a lot of this, but there's so much misogyny in this book. I'm just going to come out and say it. Hillary's a shrew, Hillary this, Hillary that, you know, and it's garbage. I have major questions. I'm not denying anything in the book, but there's a big debate going on that will bubble up in the next few days about how this book was sourced. We've got allegedly Bill Clinton saying something that sounds kind of racist. It's not even in quotes. It's a paraphrase. You really got me going on this book. I think it's gossip, and I think it's the wrong thing to be discussing, especially on a show like this.
Okay, thank you, Joan, and I appreciate your opinion.
I want the 18 million people who have voted for me to be seen and heard, to be respected, to be given the real appreciation that you're due. We have won more votes than anyone has ever won who has run for the presidential nomination of any party in our country's history. I am very proud of that. But more than that, I am humbled and grateful.